Hey everybody, how's it going? Alex here, and today we're going to take a look at continuing building our Airtable database, but not necessarily in the way that you might think. We're going to take a look at Stacker, which is, I think, one of the easiest front-end builders out there that play really nicely with Airtable, and it could well be the starting point for building your own custom CRM. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. All right, welcome back. This is our Airtable database as we left it last time around. And yeah, one of the next step to kind of like get started with Stacker, I would say, is to, you might think, create an account in Stacker. No, not yet. We're gonna go ahead and create our list of users. And usually this starts with creating a blank table. Let's call this users. Perfect. And yeah, for now, we will need really three things. We'll need the username, so something like John Doe. We will need the email. And we will also need the role. Now, I tend to make sure that the role is a single select. And for now, I think I'm gonna have a few roles. Basic admin role, I would say, although I believe admins are handled differently. But anyway, let's begin with admin, then office, and then agent. There we go. So for now, let's just add some dummy data. So let's say john@example.com, and he is going to be our agent. Let's add Mary Doe, who's going to be our office person. And yeah, I think that's it for now. We're going to be admins, like the person who creates the portal is automatically the admin. So we don't really have to develop a role for them just yet. I think it's all going to be cool the way it is. So, so let's just delete that for now. So yeah, right now we're ready to go ahead and create our Stacker instance. All right, so now we are on stackerhq.com. Let's go and press start for free. Then I'm just gonna input all my details. There you go. Business app for my work, yes. Airtable, no need to tell them anything about their project. Company name, company size, next. Try Stacker now. And I'm just gonna sign out of my account and sign in with Google. I'm gonna pick my account, confirm. Okay, and this is the next screen. So here I'm just gonna call this real estate. And maybe I'm gonna choose an app icon for like a house, maybe. Perfect, something like that. And workspace. Name, let's call this Sonorus demo. Perfect. Continue. So the next step is to get a share link for our base. Very easy to do. Let's get back to our Airtable database. Let's go share publicly, turn on base sharing, do not allow users to copy the data, and restrict the access with a password for security. So I'm just gonna input a password. Perfect. And set the password. And don't forget to copy this. Then go back to Stacker, paste the link. My sharing link is password protected. Make sure that you say yes here and enter the password that you've inputted previously. Perfect. And then connect. Stacker needs your permission to access your Airtable bases. The next step will redirect you to your Airtable to grant this permission. Excellent. Continue. Here we need to add our base. And the base is called Real Estate DBV1. Choose our base, grant access. Now it's connecting to Airtable. Excellent. Yes, at this point we can also set up our user table. So let's press yes, table for users, email address field are in my email field, add users. The next step, tables. Choose which tables to use. Yeah, let's use all of them. Finish. And that's it. We've successfully completed the setup, the initial setup of Stacker with Airtable. Now let's take a look at how to make this whole thing very, very, very pretty and functional. So first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about where we are and what the controls are for Stacker. The key things, the key ways to control this platform. So on the left-hand side, we have our navigation. You can navigate to certain areas of the app in certain ways, but this is what we call our primary menu, where you can navigate to certain places in this sense, like I can see my contacts, I can see my deals, deal tasks, and so forth. But sometimes, for instance, like deal tasks, you don't really need, most likely, to see a whole list of all the tasks for any given deal. You probably want to concentrate on the deal tasks once you're in a deal somewhere. Here, for instance, you may not need this here. So we're going to talk about how to edit that. Now, next thing, we can also see our controls over here for our workspaces. You can see my settings and such. And then we can also talk about the general workspace settings. Essentially, when you have a workspace, within a workspace, you can have multiple apps. So you can have a real estate app, you can have something else. The most typical approach to this would be to have an app dedicated for your client support, an app dedicated for your employees, and maybe an app dedicated for your admins. My personal approach generally is to keep things under one app so that it's easier to manage more than anything else. Let's talk about our controls for editing the front end. They are hidden away, tucked away in this little bar over here on this little tab. So the first control is editing a given layout. Once you press that, you go into what we like to call edit mode, where you can edit the layout in front of you. You can typically drag and drop things and they appear. It takes a few seconds. This is generally the edit mode for, this is the button for editing the front end that you see in front of you. The next button is the data button, where you can take a look at what is going on with your data as Stacker views it and perform schema updates and data updates. You can also work on permissions. It's basically the advanced settings, as I would say, for Stacker. The next button deals with managing users. So who are the users of your app? And over here, we're going to deal with adding users to your app and making sure that they have the right permissions or they have rather the right user role, which trickles down to them having the right permissions. The next thing is preview. So once you press this button, you are able to then go into preview mode, which is also very important because you need to make sure that certain people can see certain things, and the best way to do that is to impersonate them and see the world through their eyes. Finally, let me just get it out of preview mode. The final button is app settings. Now, app settings, they are really high level, typically high level settings, more global settings for your app, where you can manage your data sources. You can see all of the permissions that you have set up, general settings, adding custom scripts. There's a lot of global settings that you can edit here. You can add roles. You can manage your navigation, which is another interesting thing that we were just discussing. And you can control your appearance to a certain degree, of course, right? This is low code. We typically don't have a ton of leeway in editing the front end and the look and feel. Because this is low code, all of this is very preset. You can do a lot of things, but not absolutely everything. So yeah, now having said all of this, let's go ahead and actually start building stuff. All right, so now we're back, and let's go ahead and start working on our properties views. Like I said previously, there's 3 things that we need to take care of for every single table. For properties, contacts, deals, deal tasks, task blueprint, and users, we need to make sure that we have our lists sorted, our detail view sorted, and our forms sorted. And when I say sorted, they have to basically look and function as best as possible. So here we have our list of properties. I only have 3 properties at this point. Probably it's an interesting idea to make this a little bit more interesting by changing some of the display elements. First and foremost, header. I want to leave this as a banner. I want to actually add a title. So let's say all properties, add an image, which is nice. I'm just gonna add an image really quickly. And there we go. Excellent. And already it's looking much better. In my advanced settings, I can set the show overlay to be dark or not, or light, for instance, like so. It's completely up to you. I'll leave it like this for now. So yeah, the next thing to do is actually, let me just go back, continue editing. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to edit this list. And to do that, all I have to do is just go here in the display. And here I can choose how I want this to be displayed in maybe cards, a Kanban board. A Kanban board needs a status field though. Rows, that's an interesting way to do it. Inbox, where it's almost like that Outlook look and feel, where you choose a certain record and it pops up on the left. On the right. But I think for now, I will leave this as a card view and make sure that, excellent. So the next thing is to, probably just press save layout. You can also add inline filters. What this will do, it will allow you to add certain fields as a filter. So let's say the lot size, maybe the address, that could be an interesting filter. So here you can adjust your filter and it will filter down this list. Another important filter, another important characteristic of a stacker. Then you can also set up a sort. So let's say I want the records in this list to be sorted in some ascending or descending order. So let's say name, ascending. If I set this up to descending, it's gonna go house 321, or in descending, of course, or ascending, ascending or descending, it will go, house 123. The other interesting thing that you can do, and very important thing to do, is to be able to adjust which fields you want each card to have. You can do that by turning the toggles on and off. And of course, if you want to, you can also change the names of the fields. Let's say this market value field, you can change this to just value. And you can see how that changes. Now, it's important to note that this doesn't change anything in Airtable. My market value field is still called market value. This is just for the intents and purposes of this view. You can also hide the label completely if you want to. That's another thing. So it could look just like that. That's basically it in terms of setting up a basic setup of a list. Of course, you can take this away and make this very pretty. We're gonna also talk about actions a little bit later on. Let's now proceed to edit the front end of a detail view. So now let's just proceed to go over how to edit the detail view. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's get editing with the detail view. I'm still in edit mode, but yeah, At this point, I'm in my properties table. I'm looking at house number 1. Now, from our database, house number 1 has got deals associated with it. I'm going to go ahead and start editing. Now, the principles of getting a really good detail view are very simple. The first rule of thumb, I would say, is important stuff goes at the top. So I would suggest maybe placing something like a highlight at the top where we can have the market size, maybe market value, and maybe the lot size show up first. I'm not sure why this is not showing up. So something like a highlight view. There we go. And maybe the lot size can also go right there at the top. The next thing is to use tabs so that you can divide and conquer your data. Tabs are very easy to access. Just press on tabs over here and you can go ahead and create a new tab. So let's say here we're going to call this next tab deals, right? Now, the bread and butter of a detail view is, of course, the fields. The fields module, you can find it right here at the top. The fields usually display any kind of field data. You can add actions to that. So the bread and butter of a typical detail view, I would say, is the fields module. You can find it over here. And you can basically play around with that a lot. You can add sections if you want to, which will divide your data like so. You can do that by pressing that add section button. You can rename your section. So this could be our market value data, for instance, and you can see how that just adds a little section header at the top. We can also name our section over here at the very top one. This one, here we go. Let's call this address or something like that. And that's that. Next thing that I tend to like to do, you can of course add actions. You can add the collapsibility to each section. So you can go down here to options and press allow sections to collapse and expand. And what that will do, it will create this sort of like accordion function to your data. You can also say that you want it to always start collapsed. So in other words, as soon as you arrive at the record, these sections will be collapsed and you will have to actually perform a click to show these sections. Now, we were previously talking about tabs. So let's go ahead and work within deals because, I'm looking at a house right now. I want to see its related deals. And to do that, you can see how here I have fields module being placed there by default. So I'm just going to delete that. And I'm going to add a related record list, which is something that we add very often. You're going to see this in a lot of places. So what we want to bring the deals against this house that we have on the system. Right now, we only have, as you can see in our database, only one deal. This one, which has a status of pre-sale. So let's go ahead and set this up. So show records from deals. We need to make sure that this is checked, include only related records. And you can see how Stacker intelligently picks up that properties has a connection to deals. Then you need to choose a layout. Right now we have only one, deals. And here we can also add a title, or rather amend the title. So we can call it all deals and something like that. Now from here, you can allow people to create records, add new. You see how that button just popped up as soon as I toggled this. And then we can also display a search bar in case you want to search stuff, and allow users to download data. This is just like, this allows you to download data as a CSV. That is basically it in terms of dealing with a detail view. There's of course more things that we can do to this, but for the basics, this is good enough. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how to set up your forms. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my properties view, and I'm gonna press this add new button, which will open up the default
non-edited version of the form that will allow any user to add a new property record. As you can see, right now it's kind of following my detail view design. This is not exactly what I want, so I'm gonna jump into edit mode. Instead of saying use detail layout, I'm just gonna say customize your create layout. And here I can go ahead and start editing stuff. So first and foremost, I'm not a huge fan of this properties add new. So the way that I like to do this is to always add a plus and then just name it appropriately. New property. Or you can also say add new property. That looks much better. Next, the same principles apply. As we saw previously in our detail view, we still have fields, we still have sections. It's good to remember that. So I'm just gonna edit this section, basic info. And for this, you probably know how I work by now. I like to force myself to think critically. So I'm just gonna remove any kind of fields that I'm not working with, because I wanna make sure that every single field goes in the right section at the right time. So basic info should contain indeed the name and the address. And should I want to make a field required, you can go into the little edit mode over here of the field itself and then press required. Here you can add some description, the address for the property. You can add a default value. So in other words, when you open up a new form, it will always say something. So let's say test and placeholder text. Now that essentially, if I'm not mistaken, there you go. It's kind of like the text that is ghosted behind an empty field. So you can say enter property address here, like that. Well, as soon as you start typing, it will say, you can say 1, Test Street. And that's it. You see how it disappears. So it's that placeholder text that is just helpful for users. So yeah, that's that in short. Let's go ahead and add our next section. So I'm just going to click out. And you see how I'm dragging another set of fields. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want to showcase how you can create custom workflows. For example, I want this next section to appear only once you've given me a name and you've given me an address. Only then do I want you to give me the market size and lot size for that property. And I'm going to show you how to do that. This is us going into a little bit more advanced functionality, but let's give this a shot. So I want to set the conditional visibility over here, and you can add a filter. So I want to say that name is not empty, and I'm going to add another filter. Address is not empty. Done. Perfect. Now let's just add our section name over here, and this can be market data. And we'll leave it at that. Let's test this out. Let's see if this works. Just gonna close, save and continue. And now you can see how that section has disappeared. You can see how test is pre-filled. Let's say house number 3. And because test is there, instantly the market data section has come up. Now, if this address was empty and I needed to add one market street, you can see how this works. So yeah, market value, let's say 450,000, and a lot size 2,000. And now I can press save. Excellent. So now if we take a look at our properties, we should see house number 3 come up in our Airtable database. So yeah, that's how it works with creating property records. There you go. This is how you can edit your forms. That's it, guys. This was a quick little introduction to Stacker. We're gonna continue evolving this project to make it really, 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 really sexy and functional. So yeah, stick around. Let me know in the comments down below what are some of the use cases that you'd like to see, and I'm gonna take a look and we're gonna implement as many as we possibly can. So yeah, see you in the next one. Cheers.